Welcome back. Our next panel, before breaking ground, will discuss destination management, specifically in Switzerland. But how are these destinations created? Beyond the property line, a shift from individualism to coevolution leads us on a holistic path of community empowerment and local integration. This panel will analyze the frameworks needed to create a successful tourist destination, one that is equitable, inclusive, and regenerative.
It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Mr. Michael McKay, who is the founder of the McKay Interview and is ex-Chamber of Commerce in Geneva. Welcome to our stage. We're so pleased to have you on stage today. And to our audience, please don't forget to submit any questions you might have for the Q&A. Mr. McKay, how are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for that great introduction. It's so good to be here and so happy to be invited back to the EHL again. I think you can have more than enough of one person, but I think this is about 7 or 8 years that I've been at the EHL, and it's always a great pleasure to be here. Now, most of you are a lot younger than me. When I was a small boy, I think I was about 8 years old, I remember the flu pandemic in England of 57, 58, and I was at university for the terrible pandemic of 68. I was a student at university, but never before have I seen anything that's happened to what's happened to us over the last 2 years. And that's the last I'm going to mention COVID-19 in that context, because today we're just going to be looking forward and looking at the future and be thankful for life. Now, destinations are the soul of the travel and tourism industry. The entire industry relies on these unique centers. But how are they created? That's the key question we're going to look at today. Now, with the help of our distinguished panel this afternoon, we're going to examine the facets, the necessary facets of destination management and development and enhancement, and ranging from the political implications, the infrastructure, the environmental studies, and accessibility, all important components of the topic of our panel debate today. Now, looking holistically at a region, any region, when building a hotel, we should reflect on the view that its presence is not just on the land it occupies, but much, much more. A shift from individualism to co-evolution. And that word may mean different things to different people. I'm not clear in my own mind what that means, but we're going to hear that from our panel this afternoon. Co-evolution. It leads us on a path of community empowerment. Now, again, empowerment is one of those words that's used more and more these days. Wasn't around so much when I was young. It meant different things. But we're going to talk about what empowerment actually means in this business sector and in these modern times. Local integration, important to bear that in mind. Now, that's not just a warm and fluffy expression conjured up by me, but it's meaningful and it's fundamentally serious and real to what we're talking about this afternoon. Now, our panel, they'll analyze the frameworks that align the desires of all stakeholders. That's a big ask when I say all stakeholders, but they're in the best position to know what all stakeholders means, while at the same time creating successful value for the tourist destinations, and a value that at the same time is equitable, inclusive, and regenerative. All big words, but very, very important, not just jargon, okay? Now, I want to introduce them to you. First of all, Nathalie Seiler-Hayes, General Manager of one of Switzerland's great hotels, and you can keep the applause to the end, okay? Great hotels, Beau Rivage Palace, Lausanne. But she's also run some of the great hotels in other parts of the world. For example, and I'm going to refer to my notes so I don't make any mistakes because these are important. The Connaught in London. If you don't know the Connaught, even just to walk past is an experience. It's just off Berkeley Square, correct? Yeah, it's a fantastic place with great history. The Regent Grand Hotel in Bordeaux. What a wonderful city. And the Hotel Champs-Élysées in Paris. She also worked in New York, 4 years for Rosewood Hotels and Resorts, and she's a graduate of this great institution. Adrien, if I say it in English, Adrien en français, Jeannier, did I get that right? Jeannier, not too bad, describes himself as a happy husband and dad of 2 daughters. I'm going to tell you a joke later about a father who had 6 daughters, and what that did to him, okay? We'll come
still
back
happy?
to that. He's still very happy.
Okay, then that's good.
He has a passion for the tourist industry since he was a small boy. MBA management from the HEC in Lausanne, specializing in tourism. He worked here in this house as an academic okay? He wanted to go on and do a PhD. I think he actually started doing a PhD in tourism, but then the call of active work took him, and he went off to become a manager of some regional office in Switzerland. Then he ended up working for Swiss Tourism. That's that little badge you can see on his lapel. That's the Swiss Tourist Board. Swiss Tourist, the representatives in old-fashioned English, but it's called Swiss Tourism. And he went off to Brazil, so I guess you speak Portuguese.
Eu falo português.
Obrigado, obrigado. And then to Stockholm, market manager for the Nordics, for Swiss Tourism. And now he's the chief executive of Geneva Tourism and Congress. Two important words, Tourism and Congress Foundation, where he leads a big team. Pierre-Henri Boussauvert. Was that okay?
Very good.
Not too bad, okay. He's worked for many of the great hotel names, Starwood, Meridian, Accor, Dorint, and with over 30 years of it. This must be a typing mistake. You can't have over 30 years, you know.
Unfortunately, yes.
Upscale brands and hotel brands. He's chosen to open W Verbier in 2013. And as you know, it's part of the Marriott Group, rewarded by several high-profile international organizations. And in 2021, for the 6th consecutive year, W Verbier was voted the best Switzerland ski hotel and the world's best ski hotel for the reputed World Ski Awards. Also awarded the best general manager in Switzerland 2021 for the International GM Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, you see for yourself the quality of the panel that YHS has gathered for you. Not for me, for you today. So let's applause, even though you're out there in virtual land. Thank you. I can hardly hear you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to sit down now. Even though most of you are not in the same room, we're going to engage and do our best to inform and also to entertain you this afternoon. And I promise you I will leave time for sufficient questions. That's my promise to you. Okay, now we're going to start, panelists, with a big picture question, which requests an overview response from you so that we have a better idea of what you do and what are your particular perspectives on this topic is. Or put another way, in simple English, a bird's eye view of each of your respective destinations. Natalie, you start, please. Give me a big picture of your splendid hotel. How do you position it within the frame of luxury hotels globally, across Europe, in Switzerland, and here in Romandie, Lausanne? Please, give us an idea.
Thank you so much. Actually, the Beau Rivage Palace, I want to say it's part of this legendary property that you have across Europe and the world, a few properties that are really part of this palace family. I think it's a combination between tradition and innovation. It's located on the lake, so you have an amazing view, 4 acres park, pools, a spa, 5 restaurants, and of course, at the top of that, an amazing staff, which brings the soul and 160 years of history. So I think all of these ingredients are part of the DNA of what a palace is about. And I truly think that for a destination like Lausanne, it is definitely a big plus. Sometimes it can also be that the Beau Rivage, and I love to say that, but it can also be a destination itself. But other than that, I think we are kind of, yes, part of this palace family, which could be Villa d'Este on Como in Italy, this type of hotel. So I think maybe 100 of property around the world are part of this really palace family.
And for those, just a quick question, for those of us looking in who may not have been there, don't know the geography, just briefly, can you walk down to the lake? Is the lake, if you like, the lake shore part of the property? Or do you have to cross a main road or a railway track or whatever to get to the Lake of Geneva, Lac Léman?
Actually, you are just facing the lake from the windows. You have the lake, the mountain, the snow at the top of it. It feels really like the typical Swiss postcard. And actually very next to it, you have the vineyards of the Lavaux, which is part of UNESCO heritage, which is also just an amazing landscape. And I think all of this, which are also the DNA of Switzerland, this amazing countryside and landscape, and it's part of the DNA of the Beau Rivage.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you can describe a hotel as mouth-watering, highly desirable, that's it. Great story. Pierre-Henri, your hotel is not so far away from Natalie's, even for the Swiss. It's about 2 hours by car, and yet it's a world away in atmosphere and surroundings. Give us your big picture positioning story in, again, the global context of your hotel, globally, worldwide, Europe, in Switzerland, and in the Alps.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we're completely opposite hotel than Natalie's. It's a new hotel. Well, new. We are 9 years old now. It was the first W in the mountains worldwide. W has a very strong positioning and branding, so to position the hotel was quite easy, I would say. You need to know that Verbier, and it's luckily changing the last few years, but has been known as a ski resort. So it was operating 5-6 months a year, and that was it. When we came with the W, first of all, we wanted to integrate it properly within the resort. This is one of the W positioning, so it needs to be very designed, but we need to adapt to the local identity. So if you know our hotel, it's chalet style with quite some design elements inside, but that keeps the warmth of the chalet and what people are looking for when they go skiing. So when we came and positioned the hotel, we straight away had a strategy to open the hotel 365 days a year. This is unique in the Alps, whether it's
from the beginning.
From the beginning, whether it's Switzerland or France, or there's no hotel in the Alps that are doing that. So we really struggled, of course, and we had to come with very strong strategies to fill the hotel outside of the season. And we see now, after 9 years, forget about COVID, that we really start to succeed, and that more and more other hotels, restaurants, bars are staying open longer than what they used to do when we started operating the hotel. Interesting to know is that Verbier is not a hotel destination compared to Zermatt or Crans-Montana, where you have plenty of hotels. Verbier has barely, with us now, about 500 rooms. And this was one of the reasons why W came there, because Verbier as a destination really wanted, we call it, I don't know if actually it exists in English or not, but warm beds. Because Verbier is a chalet apartment destination, and everybody has his house, his apartment, but they didn't have enough hotel beds that really do destination marketing. And at the time, it dates 15 years ago, they really had this idea to say, okay, we need to have a hotel, an international hotel in Verbier that really will drive that. And that's the point where we are today, and we see that it's quite successful.
Thank you for that. That's a good introduction. And obviously, you set it up very well, because that gives us a lot to talk about as we start to drill down in the second part of our show this afternoon. Adrian, your professional career has covered a wide spectrum, as I mentioned in the introduction. You've worked in hotels, created, directed marketing programs in countries and regions, but you now got the responsibility for Geneva as a destination. Give us your big picture story of this great city of Geneva. I'm a bit biased. I live close, although I live in Vaud. I tend more, I know this is a heresy to say it, but I tend more to Geneva than I tend to Lausanne in terms of frequency of visiting. Put it in the same macro context for us. Geneva, world, city, Europe, Switzerland, please, Adrian.
Well, first of all, I started after working 7 years at Switzerland Tourism in Brazil and then Stockholm, started on 1st of January 2019 as CEO of Geneva Tourism, and I thought I had an easy job. And then came COVID, and that became really, really complicated. Geneva has a very specific position. It's a worldwide brand. I think that it's the largest brand, the most well-known brand of Switzerland after Roger Federer. But,
really? Seriously?
Yeah.
You're not saying that just to make us...
No. But really, it's known worldwide because of the international institution, the Red Cross and others, because of the watches, because of so many things. So Geneva is a brand that we don't need to work for awareness. We need to work for consideration and then acquiring congresses and then have people repeat their stay, so to come back. Geneva is... it's a small region in itself. It's just in the city, 500,000 inhabitants, so you could say it's very tiny city. Still, it's the second largest city in Switzerland. It has 10,000 beds, 10,000 rooms in the city. So it's very dense, and it has the highest occupancy rate, 67% before COVID, and the highest RevPAR in Switzerland. This is for sure maybe the RevPAR, revenue per.
Sorry, it's jargon.
I think people there from the
know
hotel
they all know
industry,
what that
they
means,
know
but
exactly.
I don't. Okay, fine, yeah.
So it's a destination that has 4 types of client. First of all, it's the most international destination in Switzerland. We have only 18% before COVID. I always give
COVID,
numbers before COVID. Yeah. We have only 18% of national tourists, of domestic tourism. The rest is worldwide. Wow. And most of our clients are coming from France, UK, the US, and the Gulf countries, and mainly that. And then it's worldwide. So that is the first thing, that it's a very international destination. And then the type of clients are very different, because we have 4 types of clients. The leisure tourists that are more known as, okay, people are tourists, they are leisure, coming for leisure. Then the Congress tourists, but we also have the international delegates, which is a big part
Just
of...
describe that for people who may not be so clear about what that means.
Delegates, Geneva is an international capital. It has more than 41 international agency of the United Nations. Can be the Intellectual Property Organization, the World Health Organization that everybody knows now, the CERN, which is at the peak really of the research in science. And then you have close to 700 NGOs, non-governmental.
700?
700. 41 agencies of the UN and 700 NGOs. So that brings a lot of people traveling just to address international topics and have negotiations. And as a famous Swiss ambassador was saying, a lot of decisions are made in corridors, not in plenary sessions. Exactly. And you don't have corridors on the internet. So people will come back and travel to Geneva. But this is one specific type of client. And then are the corporate clients, coming for trading commodities, for private banking, for all other companies like, we have Procter & Gamble's, we also have all the watch industry, and Firmenich and Givaudan, the 2 largest fragrance factories. So this is a very specific destination that has many different kind of clients, and we thought that we are well diversified, but the COVID crisis showed us that it was not that easy.
Well, later I'm going to ask you if that really complicates your life, because unless you're colouring your hair, you don't have much grey hair. So you're obviously managing it quite well, But let me ask you now...
I told you I'm a happy daddy, family first.
Okay.
Business
let me ask you now to drill down a little bit into the detail. Now, the devil is in the detail, as they say, although I read that the origin of that phrase is that God is in the detail. So I'm not sure how the devil got into that expression. But if you had to pick just 3 little things that are absolutely musts to get right in your own domain, for Rivage, Lausanne, WVRBA, Geneva Tourism Congress, what would those 3 little things be? Adrian, you kick off. The little things that you have to attend to.
There are so many things.
Just pick 3.
I would say the personal touch. When you come to a city, it's so different to come to a random hotel than to come to a hotel where you feel that you are really hosted. Yeah. So the point of contact throughout the whole customer experience is very key. That is something that it's really, really hard for us, because we do marketing, that's our job, we do marketing and welcoming, but we do not own the product.
Oh, sure.
So when you do marketing for a product that you do not control, that's quite tricky, and all these point of contacts are really crucial. You can train people, you can help them, you can but this, the welcoming part and the genuine welcoming part, being authentic is really key. And then another part is the involvement of locals. And this is a program that we try to start. Lyon, the French city of Lyon, very close by, has launched a program now for many years that is very inspiring. It's called the Insider Program, le programme à la Lyonnaise. It's to ask the citizen of your city to be your first ambassadors, so that they promote and they are proud to invite people. Because when you were talking before about inclusivity and regenerative destination, if the citizen of a destination, of a touristic destination, are not happy and not willing to welcome tourists, then you're done. I mean, they will stay in a hotel, and once they go out, they say, well, maybe we should not come back.
Absolutely. Pierre-Henri, just again, I know it may be difficult, but just pick 3 small things where your eye for detail and your staff's eye for detail is so crucial to success.
I'll make it quite easy. In real estate, you have location, location, location. I would say in our industry, it's service, service, service. I can give you thousands of examples, but the most important thing is that every detail is according to the client or the guest, because everybody's different and everybody wants something different. So again, I could give you...
But not to press you too much, but isn't that easier to say than to do? I mean, you say that, but there's obviously, because you're an experienced guy in this business, there's a multitude of things behind service.
That's our constant battle and challenge, to make sure that whatever you do, whatever your staff is doing is consistent and gives the same level of service. I don't think you can reach the 100%. But you need to work every single day to reach it, and never be satisfied, and always try to improve. But you work with people, and people are different, guests are different, talents are different. So it is our major challenge in our industry. And that's why I say service, 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 because the rest is much easier also to implement.
Natalie, I'm sure you'll echo that, but do you have anything in particular, another aspect, looking at it from the position of Beau Rivage, Lausanne?
I can only be really join what you just say. It's all about people. I think we are here to create experiences, maybe even transformation. We are here to inspire people. And I think it's how do you create an environment where your staff is empowered enough to make it happen. And I think as far as we're concerned, I have 420 employees. How do you make sure that whenever there is a moment, they can use it to create a specific experience to the guest and touch emotionally the guest? Just as an example, very simple. Let's imagine you are together in one of our bars with your wife having a drink. Suddenly your wife is telling you, wow, I love this smell here in this bar. They have this specific smell. This is fabulous. Next to you, you have one of our waiters at the bar listening to the conversation. Few hours back, you come up to your room and you have a little note with a little candle with the scent of what you just had at the bar, and the waiter telling you a little something to bring back home. I think this is the type of experience that you need to train your people to make it happen.
And I'm not an old cynic, but I have been around a bit. That's not a romantic story you just made up. That's an example of what can actually happen.
No. I'm not making that up.
Yeah.
We have specific program to train on this type of emotional connection.
Observation and listening.
Yeah, and it's a lot about your heart. I
think a sense.
It starts with the people that you hire. Yep. We like to please. We are here to serve and I think if you have the right behavior, the right personality, the rest you can learn. We're not saving life here, but we are here to make people happy. And to give a little something. It sounds a little bit Disney, but it's not.
No. Before we go on to my next question, I want to ask all three of you a question which I probably didn't sort of hint at before, but it's something which I've always thought about, having lived in this country quite a long time, and that is that so many people in the hotel industry, the catering industry, are not from this country. They are basically frontaliers in Geneva, or they're young people coming in, working temporarily. Is that a problem in the sense that the foreign tourists, not the Swiss tourists, but the foreign tourists want to meet Swiss people, or is that something which is really not an issue as such? Maybe you start there, because I know for a fact in Geneva, there's a lot of frontaliers working in the hotels.
That's correct, and it's something not about only the salary, but that the thing in these businesses, and especially in Geneva, turnover is really high, and then you need to acquire more people, and then they come and they love the city. But the thing is that they are not trained, they don't know the destination, they are not involved. So it's really hard to have a genuine and authentic recommendation to a certain client if they don't know the product. I mean, you sell what you know. If you don't know the product, it's hard to sell it. So we have some, not issues, but some cases in Geneva that people are asking to a waiter at the bar, oh, what could I do tomorrow as an excursion? Yeah. And instead of saying and explaining what you can do in Geneva or close around, they would send them to neighboring mountain or, you know, that's the thing. And that's part of our job as a destination to involve the staff in the hotels. There are already so many things to do when you run a hotel. Maybe talking about the destination and training people about the highlights of the destination, the agenda of the destination. Yeah. For example, last week was Art Genève. Art Genève is one of the big fair of contemporary art. So we try to push it so that when people come and say, what can I do in Geneva? Say, well, you know what? There is really a magnificent fair, very interesting, that is in Palexpo. You should go and visit. Yeah. These are small, just information, you know, sometimes the basic. We need in Geneva to start with the basic, on, highlighting what you can do, the agenda, and then hope that they love their job and that they are going to
I'm going to come to you in a minute now. I should explain to our audience, because I was being a bit unfair as we have an international audience. Frontalier, Geneva is almost surrounded, 90% or more, by France. And so a lot of people come in from France, Swiss people as well, believe it or not, to work in Geneva during the day and go back in the evening. Now, you're further from the border, the frontier, but is that an issue? I don't want to make too much of it, but I'm just curious to know how you deal with that when you have a lot of foreigners, you know, working and running the important jobs in the relationship with customers in your hotel.
I think we need both.
Both.
We need authenticity, we need people from the region, and we need the diversity of all of these different cultures. Yeah. Because I also need to learn how do I treat and how do I greet a Chinese guest versus someone from Abu Dhabi. So I think we need both, and I think if you have the right training and you can use the Swiss people to teach someone foreign about what do you do in the Lavaux, how long do you go to Verbier? And because as you were saying, Adrien, I think one hotel without its destination, it doesn't mean anything. And it's so important to work closely together and be aware of what's happening. And we are definitely selling a destination. That's very important.
And maybe just to catch up with that, it's about the destination and it's the personal touch as well. And we have the most frequent question that we have is after asking what kind of restaurant you have is, but what is your preferred restaurant?
Yes.
You know, people are asking, but where do you go?
Yeah.
But if they want to experience the authentic destination. Whatever, It's not really what is the best part, is what do you personally like? Or what would you recommend to me? It's that personal touch that makes it really different. And that's why it's important in a destination that the staff of a hotel is involved, that have the opportunity to test and try and taste the destination.
I see that, yeah. Pierre-Henri, what about up in the mountains where you have lots of young Brits working and all that sort of thing?
But it's exactly the same. I mean, really? It's a great asset to have different nationalities working in your hotel, and it's not that complicated to train people and to make them acquainted with the surrounding, with what they need to know, and then depending on the guest, they can give the right thing to do. And it's the talents will understand the different guests. It's fantastic what you were saying. To greet somebody in Japanese or in Chinese, people like that. They look for that, even though they look for certain authenticity. When they come to the Swiss mountains, they still want to be recognized. Sometimes they don't speak the language properly, so they're super happy when somebody speaks Chinese, Russian, or French, or English, or Spanish, or whatever. It's really an asset.
We're going to talk ground operations based on your experience. And I'm not splitting hairs, I'm not being semantic about this, but I want to know, as you're all practitioners, you're all experienced managers, in your experience, what's the difference between a good hotel, and I've stayed in many of them, and a great hotel, and I can basically remember 5 that I would call great hotels that I've stayed in. In your experience, what is that almost indiscernible difference between what is good in the Swiss context and what is great? Pierre-Henri, what do you think?
I'll come back to what I said earlier. It's service with passion. If you give service, if every single staff gives service from his heart, people will have an amazing experience and they will remember. And it's what Nathalie says, to find that thing that that particular guest will like, to to listen, to hear to what they're looking for, and to have this connection with the guest. That's the whole difference.
And you can train or you can coach that in your staff? Not to be, again, skeptical, but these things are emotional,
correct,
rather than practical and tangible.
Correct, and that's, again, the most challenging thing we have to do. It's to make sure that every single talent or employee has this feeling, and some people have it a bit more, some others don't have it, but if you put the right people, if you give them the right spirit, they will see it from their colleagues, they will learn, and again, maybe you won't have the 100%, but you will maybe achieve 80 to 90%, and that's going to make the difference.
What's your view, Natalie?
I share 100% your view. It goes back to the personalization, anticipating needs. I think using probably more technology in order to better understand who are your guests and what are their needs, then based on that, what kind of service and product we can propose in order to fulfill these needs. And it is all about that, and that's a daily job that we are doing to make sure that we go really to these top details. But I think for that, you also need to have, in luxury, the top product, great location, and I think then you need also excellence in everything you do. You know, for example, we have Anne-Sophie Pic as a chef, in one of our restaurants. Okay, this is really, when you talk about excellence, this is it. And I think people are also looking for that. You need to have a good balance between soft skills and hardware, if I can say so.
No, I understand. Yeah.
But yes, if I have to give one, the most important is the soul of the property. Yeah. I have visited many property all over the world where sometimes you have, I don't know, gold everywhere, or even though now luxury, it's not about that anymore. But if the service and the soul is not here, forget it. Mm-hmm. I better be in the middle of nowhere in a little cabana, but with someone who is going to take care of me and my needs and show me attention and show me that I'm so special. This is going to make me feel good.
And your experience, you've been in different aspects of the industry. How do you see the difference? I mean, maybe when you go into a hotel, you can spot sometimes a good hotel from a great hotel.
Most important are amenities, I think.
Amenities?
Always have to bring back amenities for my daughters, you know. You know, the small shampoos and
I see.
that you have in the hotel. Yeah. No, I'm joking.
No, I just didn't know.
We were like, oh my God.
Amenities, really? Still, it's part of the budget, huh? I can imagine you calculate. No, I think it's being, as you were saying, people when they travel, they want to experience and come back, and maybe they have changed, maybe they are transformed. When you go to a place and you learn something, that you really discovered something new, then, I mean, you spend some time that really made something different out of your life. And I think the best part is not only about the hotel and meeting someone that you felt really good, but it's really that you went one step beyond that really you come back and say, I learned that. Now I grew up, you know. I changed a little bit through that. And there is something in the Beau Rivage Palace that I really loved. It's with Anne-Sophie Pic, who brought the producers of the region. So this fact of being involved in the region, sustainability is very tangible. It's not a term. Circular economy or these kind of short circuit court, you know, the local providers. It's very tangible, and you need to bring it. And I think that if you are a customer, in in any kind of hotels, and that you can feel that it's connected with the destination, that in fact the fact that you are here spending a night is helping the local farmers and the bakers and the other people, then you feel like you're part of something. And that makes a big difference. And I mean, that's my cup of destination manager. But that's our biggest challenge, I think, nowadays. It's really to involve people and that clients feel that they are participating into a community. Okay. And tourism is part of it.
So Adrian, you brought us very nicely into the next part of the panel debate, which is about community and relationship with the community, the local. Now, I spent 20 years traveling as an international executive where I seldom spent more than 2 nights in one hotel. So I knew lots of hotels, but I didn't know them well. And now for the last 20 years, I've been running events in a number of hotels in Geneva, in Lausanne, and other places, and around the world. And so I've got a different perspective on hotels, but no, I've never really built close relationships as someone who sleeps in the same place, on a regular basis. So what I want to know is, how do you build, how do you leverage, how do you maximize relations and connections in the community where they are based? And how do you build relations with that community? And to what extent is it a two-way relationship and not just what you might call marketing spiel? And I used to be in the marketing business. And does your locality really have a voice in what you do, or are you talking at them rather than with them? Just give me your honest experience there, Pierre, because it seems to me an important balance to strike.
Yeah, well, actually, Verbier is a very good example.
Okay.
As you might know, in Switzerland, whenever you have a new project, whether it's a building, a hotel, or anything, everybody can put an opposition on it. So it means you have a project, you have to put it in the commune, people start blocking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very complicated.
Yeah.
The W. Verbier, when they came up with the project, they had about 120 oppositions. Some people do that just to get something back in free. Somebody does it just because they don't believe in it, etc.
And would that be a lot? Sorry to interrupt you, but is 120 a lot, or?
That's a lot, yes.
That's a lot. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good average, but it's
Okay.
when you have a big project, at least in our commune, that's more or less where between 80 and 120. Yeah. So it was kind of the maximum. Yeah. And when we opened the hotel, everybody, or 95% of the inhabitants, were against this project. They were afraid that it would be too big, that it wouldn't integrate properly within the surroundings. They didn't like that it was American. They had these small hotels, family hotels. So there was really a big against. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we came there. Obviously, we would open the hotel, and we tried to integrate all the locals and give them kind of priority in showing them in advance the hotel, integrate them in the plans, show them around, etc. And this is a work that we did alongside opening the hotel. And we see now that 9 years after, 95% or 99% understands the value of this hotel. Because
everyone, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. It brought so much. But I have funny stories. One day I was with my parents in a restaurant. I think we were 5 months open, and I was in a mountain restaurant. We were discussing, and there was I don't know, 3 or 4 people talking, this W, in 4 months they will close, they will do apartments out of it, it's never gonna work, etc. So again, they didn't understand, they didn't see it as a plus for the resort, and today it's completely the contrary. But this takes a lot of time, and this goes through putting the right strategy in place, working hard, showing that it works, be very humble. I think wherever you go, you adapt yourself to the city, country, or village where you come, and you don't come as a conqueror, where you say, I'm W, I know how it works here. No. You stay humble, you do the things, and it takes time. I mean, it's not going overnight, but when you see the result now, people really understand.
What about you, Nat? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, they understand, they see, but it took time.
Yeah. Natalie, a city like Lausanne, it's a well-established city, a historic city. It's the capital of the canton of Vaud. You know, what is it, about 100, 150, 200,000 people?
Yeah,
I mean, it must be quite different in that respect from Verbier, yeah?
Yeah, actually different because it's not like we opened yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
My biggest challenge, or our biggest challenge was, or I want to say was more than is, you have this image of a palace being just not accessible to everyone, arrogant. I hate arrogance. It's the opposite of what we were just discussing. We are here to create emotion, to give something positive and nice to everyone, whoever you are. And I would like everyone in Lausanne, whoever that is, whenever there is a specific thing to celebrate, whether it's big or very small, or back to a cup of coffee. But just to say, okay, I want to celebrate whatever around a cup of coffee, come to the Beau Rivage. And you know what? Yes, it might be more expensive than the coffee next to the station, but I would like this type of guests to be welcome in the same way than all of our guests, that they feel comfortable of coming and using. Because I think an hotel, a property without the local community is nothing.
Yeah, sure.
We need the locals, and we have many restaurants, and without the locals, our restaurant wouldn't be as entertaining as they are. And I think our international guests are also looking for that. But I would like everyone to feel it is affordable, and you can come and have, even if it's for a cup of coffee, everyone should be welcomed in the same way with no arrogance.
But Andrew, that must be difficult and different for you in Geneva, because you've got these international workers who come and churn over every sort of 4 or 5 years. They go to some other city. So there's not a solid base in that respect. A certain percentage of the city is churning all the time. Is that not the case?
That's correct. Yeah, I think every 2 years, half of the citizens of Geneva have changed.
As much as that.
Definitely,
that's a big number.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Uh-huh. But still, there is a core of the Genevois who are there, and also the hotels. I mean, many hoteliers and many hotels are still being there. And even if there is a big turnover, you still have some personalities that stay in Geneva. I think that to be close to the community, and that's what we really realized, and that maybe a positive thing that came out of COVID, is that people understood how important tourism is to their destination, to the local employees. It's more than 20,000 employees in Geneva. It's more than 3 million overnights, but that generate 1.6 billion direct and indirect economic impact. And this is, as I said, it's the florist and the baker and everyone.
That's what I want to ask all three of you now. How in fact, do you spread those economic, or is that a romantic notion that it's something you'd like to do, you feel you ought to do, but can you do it?
You need to communicate and over-communicate. I mean, it's our job. It's more on the destination side of a tourism board to do that, but and also to the politicians, because there is really bias. I mean, everyone, also the media, when they are asking, or when they come to the destination, they say, so it's a luxury destination and your clients are Arabs. I say, well, first, no. I mean, Arabs, the Gulf countries are very important to us. It's part of our history, and that's great. But it's 8% of our market share.
Is it really?
It's only 8% of our market share.
But maybe in spend as well.
No, but it's very visible.
Yeah, sure.
People see them, and they are here during July and August.
Sure.
And then they say, oh, it's a business destination. Yeah. So in fact, nobody is there during the summer season. In fact, July and August is the highest season that we have in Geneva. So there are a lot of things that people are biased. So you need to over-communicate regularly with facts, clear facts, and then open doors. What you were saying, have your memories, your good moment in one of the establishments. So we try to create, we have the La Nuit des Étoiles, so Night of the Stars, where you can go to any hotel in Geneva. If you're a resident in Geneva, then you have an incredible, very good price. So I think the fact of saying, you know what, it's open. It's not only for tourists. It's part of your city, and it's and you most probably have a friend somewhere that is contributing to the tourism industry. But as it's a fragmented, very fragmented industry, it's hard for people to grasp exactly how does it play in my life. And as you said, some people say, oh, it's a bit arrogant. Or maybe I don't dare to enter, you know. It's like maybe people are going to look at me in a certain way, and I don't want to.
And in your wonderful hotel, do you buy local produce where you can? You're offering the local wines?
Of
Again,
course.
yes, you do all that anyway.
More and more.
Yeah.
And the welcome, it's not anymore about the bottle of champagne, but the wine from the Lavaux, and then the guest. They want to know.
Yeah.
They want to go
they want to know the
to
story.
the supplier.
They see it.
To the supplier in the vineyards.
Yeah.
They want to talk to the person. We were saying just before, back to authenticity. And I think it is also very important to know, okay, the fish today or the filet perche are coming, of course, from the lake. And we know very well the guy who is fishing and blah, blah, blah. This is so important.
So that must be quite different for you. Surely your people going up and down ski lifts, they don't relate, surely.
No, but it's the same. We
Is it
try
the same?
to source local
Yeah.
products. We work with local farms. We get
Yeah.
the little veals, very cruel, but from a local farmer. It's very important. Same with the wines. I mean, we have amazing valley wines, and people want to know about it. I mean, it's not because you have a lot of money that you want a particular bottle that you know. On the contrary, today people want to experience something new that they don't know. They can have whatever they want at home, so you give them something they might not know, they might not find in their country, and that's what people are looking for.
Okay, so let me ask you this particularly for people who are looking in that may have a particular bent towards marketing, how do you take the brand image you've built, somehow graft onto it the image of the community? Verbier has been around a long time, has a history going back to the 19th century, when all the wealthy Victorian Brits came to spend their money. And your hotel has a long history. Geneva, is going back to, the Reformation. Lots of things have happened in this great city, nothing to do with tourism at all. And yet refugees,
they were the first
refugees
pilgrims.
came, absolutely.
The first tourists are
absolutely.
the pilgrims.
Yeah. So is there an accommodation between the brand image of your hotel, not to make too big a point of it, and what the local community sees as the real Verbier or the real Vaudois Lausanne? Or, how do you see that? Yeah?
That's a very interesting question. And I think, yes, there is probably
An accommodation between the two.
And the way you communicate to local is going to be different, of course, than the communication that you're going to give to your international guests. There's already a difference between how you communicate with an American versus a Chinese.
Yeah.
So therefore, there is also a difference. So yes, I think the
And Pierre-Henri, in the mountains?
Exactly the same. I mean, and in a village, probably even more than in a city, where people really, if you're a foreigner, you will always stay a foreigner. So you don't have, I think in Verbier we have 15 or 1,800 inhabitants on a yearly basis. These people are born there, they live there, it's their village, and it's important to accommodate them. But what Nathalie said, if you have different source markets, it's one of your source markets.
Okay.
So you cater for it, you have special offers, you treat them as a separate source market.
And that must tax your effort. I mean, when I say tax, means you have to put even more effort because you've got these different distinctive communities. Yeah. The Genevois, the local people, the international...
Yeah. In fact, we took...
civil servants.
We took an easy way to challenge this, is that we said, well, maybe we should not... write the story ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just give the word to the local communities.
Yeah.
So we work a lot on social media, but also when we have medias coming, so the press and others, we use user-generated content. It's like we find out a theme. So these are the themes that we think are relevant for Geneva because that makes our USP. We were saying that it's a very, you were saying, it's the typical Swiss image of having the lake, the snow-capped mountains. But I've been working for Switzerland Tourism, and when I look at Zurich, Lucerne, and Geneva, you have the river and the ancient town, the lake, and the mountain. But what makes us different are some specific themes. The watchmaking, the international Geneva, the science, the art. But then maybe it's not our role to really write it down. So we say we have the themes and we have personalities. Let's let them talk about it. And then the brand builds it itself. You see what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
For me, the brand is Geneva. That's it. But people who make the brand are the one that have to express it.
Okay.
It's authenticity. It's really let them talk. Don't try to create something that in any way will not be realistic or not be authentic, so not credible.
So my Swiss watch tells me that we're running a bit over time on that. So I've got to ask you one more question. One more COVID question. It's a COVID question. To what extent has what's happened over the last 2 years on COVID-19 transformed your business so that you are obliged to look at the world differently now that we're, thank God, coming out of it? Natalie, what do you think? I'll come to you, Pierre-Henri.
On our side, it has been kind of a very difficult situation, really, really tough, because after 160 years, 2 world war, the hotel has never closed. So suddenly you are the one who made this decision to close the property. So that has been kind of really tough. we were really fortunate to have the Fondation Famille Sando behind us. So we kind of used this period, 2 years, to close completely and renovate one of our wing. So we did invest a lot of money to renovate this wing. So now we are going out of this COVID crisis with an amazing top product. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
So that's what we did, but it has been kind of a very, very, very difficult
and the transformation
period.
process because of what's happened the last 2 years up in your part of the world?
We were lucky to stay open. Well, we closed the first wave, of course, but then we were able to open the ski season 2021. And we did work quite properly, but it was a big challenge because we didn't have enough staff, etc.
Sure.
From what I see now, let's say post-COVID, if we can already say that word, is that we have big challenges, and it's a worldwide challenge in terms of staffing. It's very difficult to find staff, and that puts a lot of pressure on the service that we want to give. I think that this year we'll do probably the best year ever since the opening in Verbier, in our hotel, which is crazy. So it's even better than the beginning of 2020, which was already very high.
Yeah.
But we have a huge challenge in terms of staffing. And what I also see is that guests, staff, they all have less respect than before. It's crazy. I thought that with COVID, everybody would calm down, say...
Less respect? What do you mean by that?
They just don't respect anything anymore. So we have much more issues with guests, much more issues with employees.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know how it comes. Again, I would think that with COVID, everybody would calm down and say, look, there are terrible things in life. Nobody of us went through that kind of things. We can enjoy, it's great. No, you have the contrary. So is it stress? But it's quite challenging.
Okay. Don't be offended, Adrian. I'm going to leave you on that because the clock is ticking mercilessly, and we are in Switzerland. So
I already spoke too much.
I've got to be honest. I have to say that. But I'm going to take some questions now from the screen and from the audience. The first one's because it's got your name on it, Natalie. It's number 2. Madam Natalie, what is your leadership philosophy in leading such an iconic property? What a great question.
I think my philosophy, first of all, I think for many, many years in hotels, we used to have this very hierarchical organization. You had a big boss telling the soldier what to do and what not to do. And time has changed. And I think as far as I'm concerned, I like flat organization. I think it goes back to empowering people. It's also very important, I think you lead by inspiring. And there are so many things I just don't know. I need my team to inspire me as well. It goes both ways. I think it's also very important sometimes just to show vulnerability. You don't know, you're not a hero. You are a human being, and we've learned that through these last 2 years. So I think for me, it's just, trying to inspire participative management, showing people the way, building a vision together. But it's really about the team and making people responsible as well. Because when you empower people, it means as well then they are capable of having this responsibility.
Okay, thanks. Let me put this question. It's the third question to you, Pierre-Henri, and I'll tell you why. When I first came here, I lived in the German-speaking part of Switzerland. I was quite surprised, even those days, that's nearly 40 years ago, to see so many Swiss Germans taking their ski holidays in Austria. That surprised me. Here's the question. Do you see a future with even more Swiss domestic tourism, which experienced a boom during the crisis? What are you doing to get the Swiss up the mountain?
Since 3-4 years, our number 1 nationality in the hotel is Swiss.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Over the year, if you take the winter season, they are number 3-4. But we see more and more Swiss people, and also from German part, coming to Verbier. Now, the COVID period, of course, has an influence, because at a certain period, nobody could ski anywhere else. So,
yeah, exactly.
So we need to see now how this is going to develop in the coming years. But yes, we see an increase, and I think there's a market for us there.
Okay, good. One more question that's come in here. Sorry, maybe you have a point, Geneva, because I just wonder, it always seemed to me that when the motor show was on, the Salon de l'Automobile, that's when I heard a lot of Swiss-German voices coming down the Autoroute 1. But what's happening? Do you make an effort to attract the Deutschschweiz down to the Romandie?
Yeah, and it started before the crisis.
Yeah.
You know, I studied marketing as well.
Before the crisis?
Before the crisis, we started, yeah. I think that most of the people who are listening to us know the metrics of the BCG, Basan Consulting Group. That is taking care of the growth rate and the volume. Then you have the cash cows and the stars, and then you know where to invest. In fact, Switzerland was already our cash cow. It was 18% of our market share, but we not really work on it. And it's the smallest market share
18%.
in 18, yeah, 1/8.
1 in 5
Very
people.
small.
Yeah.
I mean, in Valais, it's more than 63%. In Graubünden, in Grison, it's 67% almost. In the region of Canton de Vaud, who made a great job the past 15 years, 10 years, it went from 25% to 35%. So it's definitely a market that we want to work on. It's a large market, in fact, and they have purchasing power. They are curious customers. We have a lot to offer in gastronomy, culture, landscape. Vineyard as well is the third largest vineyard in Switzerland. So definitely we're going to work on it. But we started in 2019 with an agency there, trying to find out what are the right topics, what are the right personalities to bring, what is the right moment to communicate about it. So and you need to invest at least 3 to 4 years if you want to see some results.
Okay. Now, to come back to you, Pierre, just wrapping up now with 1 or 2 questions that I have from a personal point of view. I know that a lot of European nationalities are coming down by car down to Switzerland, although that might change because of the price of gasoline and petrol. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I'm just curious to know to what extent green attitudes have affected your business, to what extent Greta and the gospel that she preaches, net zero, air travel, all of these complicated issues affect, the people actually come and sleep in those beds.
To be very honest, it doesn't have any influence.
I'm surprised to hear that.
No. And of course, you might have guests that say, I don't go to a hotel that is not has not a green label, but you barely hear that for the moment. And I think the more luxurious the hotel, the less, unfortunately, but the less people really care. If they pay a very high price, they want their beds to be made up every day. We have programs in place where you can choose, you say every 2 days, every 3 days, but it's very rarely used, and that you see in the more luxurious sector or segment than.
And what about in your big
I would agree
palatial
with
hotel?
I would agree with you. On the other hand, on my side, my staff is asking me to do something.
Are they really?
It's coming from the staff. It's coming.
Down the pyramid, called the flat pyramid.
Actually, you realize that the new generation, and I think they're right, they want to do something to have an impact. And I think it is also more and more going to be important for them when they join a company to make sure that our culture embrace sustainability.
Adrian said values. Yeah, sure.
Correct. Yeah, it's very important. If you want to keep the best talents inside, you need also to embody values and that it makes sense.
They make you live up to your promise.
Yeah, and that they are proud to work for that, and sustainability is something to be proud. But maybe, as you were saying, depend on the type of clientele. It depends on the segment. And we know in Geneva, so we work on congress and leisure and meetings, incentives, strategic retreat. It always depends on what kind. In some aspects, if it's an incentive or if it's a strategic retreat for some company, they're going to ask for that because it's they are bringing their clients and their staff, so it's part of the values. In leisure tourism, I think I agree. It's something that people will look more on the experience, on the authentic touch, but less on that. But on the congress side, when you have association of, cardiac transplant or others, this is mandatory. If you produce a big book, so we issue more than 60 bid books. So we bid for more than 60 different congresses every year. Wow. And it's mandatory. You need to have something that is about sustainability, and you need to tick the box. If you're not in it, you don't even enter the competition. And another part that might be for another discussion, Michael, that is about legacy. It's really legacy. Legacy has become a really, really important part. If people come for a congress, they say, we come there, but we want also to leave something for next generation or for that edition to make sense also.
I'm pointing at the stopwatch. I thought the Vaudois clock went slower
I'm on
than
time.
the Swiss
No,
clock.
I'm
And
right on
obviously,
time.
this is going at the same time as Geneva. One last final point that maybe just come to you since this debate that we've had. Pierre-Henri, anything that you just want to say as a final sum up?
I think we can speak for hours. It's so interesting and there's so much to say. So
No,
not.
you. Natalie, one last final point.
I think hospitality is an amazing industry, so please come and join. It's just fabulous. It has a lot to offer.
Adrian?
Learn chaos management. It's going to stay. Learn chaos management and stay optimistic, stay enthusiastic.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Authenticity and location, location, location. Bravo. Thank you, panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that groundbreaking panel. I was looking forward to this panel, and I must say you guys did not disappoint. Excuse me. You all did not disappoint. Excuse my informality. It was a pleasure having you guys. Wow. It was a pleasure having you all here today, and we look forward to having you all here again.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. Thank you so much. You all brought up really interesting points. Absolutely loved it. Next, we have our delegate session. Remember, this is just for delegates. And to all other attendees, you have a break until 3:15. Thank you.